Ferg goes. Preparing to stream live. The meeting. It's pretty cool, dude. Zoom really, ever since this pandemic thing kicked in,
That's been all right.
they really got their shit together. They've upgraded a lot of things. Like I teach through Zoom, so it's
Oh, dope.
oh,
You said it's only an hour?
yeah, dude.
Cool. I won't plug in my laptop then.
Like, let's risk it. Let's risk
Yeah,
it.
maybe I shouldn't. Fuck. Yeah, I'll
It's
plug
all
in
right.
this one. I'm gonna plug it in. God damn it.
We live. Yeah,
Welcome.
go ahead. Plug in. I'm gonna put this
All
on
these
the
new
social.
devices got some good battery life, but
So wait, this is the new MacBook?
this is the 2000 or 2019, the 16 inch.
Oh,
They
dope.
stopped making the 17 inch,
Why?
and they just are making the 16 inch now.
That's interesting.
Um,
Why would they stop that?
Not sure. I guess just for I don't know. So instead of like the bigger 15 inch or whatever, now it's just the 16 inch. There's no
And
15 or 17 inch, and then like the 12 inch,
12.
the
Oh,
regular,
interesting.
like the standard SAE
Yeah, yeah.
laptops.
You said 20. Oh, dude, they're not giving laptops anymore at
Are
SAE.
they not?
Mm-mm. They're doing iPads. I know. That's funny. A lot of SA students are gonna watch this and like
Does
see.
the does that tuition price reflect the iPad instead of the?
I think so. I think they turned it
Well, because
down
that means
though.
they're not getting what Pro Tools and all that.
Mm-mm. They're not. That's what was really hard when this whole pandemic thing hit. Is that we had to re get Pro Tools for everybody. It was kind of
Damn.
a logistical nightmare, but it all worked out. Like they were able to get it really fast. Avid was like, "Yeah, sure. Here are some licenses."
Damn.
Avid like, wait.
It's
So
a
you did
nightmare.
you go to SAE?
I did, yeah.
Oh shit, I had no idea. Well, maybe we should start before that. Like, where,
Yeah, we can talk.
like, yeah, dude. Like, when did you get into music? Like, are you a musician first of all? Because I've never seen you play an instrument.
Uh yeah. I mean, I can play instruments for sure. I was once more of a musician than I am
Mm.
now. I grew up playing like random instruments. Probably the first instrument like that I played was trumpet in like the
Oh,
fifth
dope.
grade.
Wow.
I did like fifth and sixth grade. I played trumpet. Um, and other than that, in terms of like school instruments, I didn't really play again for school
Mm-hmm.
purposes. I ended up going into more chorus direction from middle school into high school.
Mm-hmm.
So I did like a chorus, and then I did like chamber chorus, which was like a smaller kind of hand selection of the main chorus kids, and
Wow.
like middle school into high school. And then once I got to high school, I stopped singing like in school, and then I just did like started playing guitar,
Oh,
um,
very cool.
and just played in a couple like light bands in high school until kind of the end of high school, and then
What kind of music?
we did a lot of rock mostly. I mean, in
Hey.
at after kind of like the early stages, like sophomore to like senior year, um, we did a lot of like Chili Peppers, and um, so we wrote some songs as well, kind of like within that style mostly.
Dude, nice.
But like we did a lot. I say Chili Peppers because we did a lot of covers of Chili Peppers, and they had like these like coffee houses at school, which is like I don't know, like a talent show ultimately.
Yeah.
They called it like the coffee house. And like you could go in and like all these bands would perform, kids from school, or like do whatever you want. So like we did that for a little bit, and just the classic after high school, like we didn't really continue to
Sure.
play like that. But kind of throughout that whole time I was playing piano, taking lessons for like 4 or 5 years.
Oh wow.
Um
Did you
and then
like
yeah,
do all those grades and everything, like Trinity grades or whatever it was?
uh I guess I don't know if it was officially that, but I did do like competitions where
Mm-hmm.
like you'd I did like recitals for one, obviously, I guess as a piano boy. And then I did
Yeah.
like our teacher, my teacher had like she was pretty official. So she had like like judges come in and like judge like an official like uh it was kind of like a test almost. Like you played a couple songs, you like rehearsed certain types of theory, and then like, you know, you'd get judged in front of these
Yeah,
judges, and then
that
you'd get
sounds like
graded like
that sounds
off
like
that.
proper grading.
Um, so I guess maybe it was like a classic piano teacher in my
Yeah.
neighborhood. So it wasn't like a school necessarily, but like she was pretty official. So
Wow.
um, maybe that was somewhat official. But
Yeah,
did
yeah,
that for a
yeah.
while, and then after high school, it just kind of transitioned into like production and like
Hmm.
making beats. Uh,
How did that happen? Like that's a big switch.
yeah, I think I started to um I've always grown up like being a huge fan of just music in general, all genres, you know, rock and roll, blues, jazz, big band stuff,
Mm.
you know, a lot of ska in high school,
Wow.
um, punk, all that stuff. And when in high school, like when torrents were like super popular,
Yeah.
I kind of had this like musical journey myself where I would start to download like discographies
Uh,
of people. So like I'd get like the entire discography of Outkast
yeah.
or the entire discography of like Nirvana or like whatever. And I'd just sit there and I would just like classic listen in headphones and just like really like listen to all the music that I feel like I should have known growing up and stuff that I didn't end up learning as like at a younger age. I just started like going hard with like listening to shit. And I think that transitioned into like production just got really was really like noticeable for me. And
Hmm.
so honestly, man, I think I was sitting down and listening to like one of Wiz Khalifa's earlier mixtapes. And he had this like weird spaceship kind of like bouncing sound from speaker to speaker that like transitioned into like an 808. And I
Uh-huh.
don't know why at the time, but it like blew my mind. And I was like, I want to learn how to like do that shit.
Oh, that's cool.
And just started busting out GarageBand, you know what I mean? Started got like a
Wow.
little 8 pad like a Kai like little beat pad
Yeah, yeah.
and just going from there, and that like slowly transitioned into just like making more beats and more production.
Dude, that's fucking odd. When is this? What is this, like 2000 something?
So this is probably like 2007,
Okay.
2008, when I started doing like production computer
Were
stuff.
you in New York?
No, so I grew up in Maryland, in
Oh, right,
kind
right,
of like
right.
the College Park area, which is like, I don't know, like a mile and a half outside of DC.
Mm-hmm.
It's where the University of Maryland College Park
I
is,
see.
like that
Yeah,
college town,
yeah,
if you're
yeah.
familiar. So that's where I grew up, and then I moved here in 2000, the beginning of 2012.
Oh, okay. So like you're not even in New York yet. You're just starting to
No,
play around with
I wasn't even
GarageBand.
thinking about music school or engineering specifically like at the time. I was just kind of making beats.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I was going to college for like business. I was
Mm-hmm.
doing at the time community college, which was going to transition into a 4 year.
Mm-hmm.
But while I was in that process, that's when I decided like 2011, maybe the end of 2010, that I like wanted to become like an engineer. So I switched from like business classes to like general studies, just whatever, so I could finish up my associate's degree a
Yeah,
little bit quicker.
yeah.
Uh, Finished that up and then moved to New York to go to SAE,
Wow. Jesus Christ, man. I mean,
which
so that's
was
that's crazy. Like, yeah. No, that's a big risk, right? Because you didn't really know what was gonna be in New York.
I didn't know like, you know, obviously where I grew up is like not like the woods. You know, it
Yeah,
is Maryland. It's like a suburb of DC, but like it's because it's a college town and like you know, you can throw a stone into DC and you're right there.
yeah.
I didn't grow up like so remote. A lot of people think Maryland is like some middle of the woods, but like it was very like pretty urban in that sense, pretty popular. Um, a good amount of people, and but never like New York City,
Sure.
and I never lived in DC proper.
Mm-hmm.
So coming here was interesting. I remember taking the bus um, to take my entry exam for SAE, and at the time um, it was music related test. like you just needed to learn basic principles of like music and
Uh-huh.
like production and like, which was a little tough because like I'd imagine a lot of people going into SE don't know that stuff yet.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah.
So I like sat there and I learned, I studied, I made all this sheet. I'm on the bus coming up here, like, and then I get there and then he goes, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, we changed the test completely because so many kids were complaining about how they didn't know shit about music.
Right.
So they changed it to like a basic math and English exam." And
Oh,
like
wow.
I hated math growing, like math was the last class I had to take in high school, the last class to get a degree in college. Like I always kind of pushed it off. And
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
so pissed off. And I was like, the fact that I'm not going to get into a school because of math is like going to like piss me off for a long time. And he was like, "Man, like if you went to high school like a little bit, like you'll be fine." And I was like, "All right, like I definitely went to high school a little bit." So at a minimum, like I definitely took care of that. So like doing the test, like it was fine. It was just like basic, arithmetic and like random English questions. But um I spent so much time like trying to learn these like terms and what I thought was going to be on the test. But
I had no idea there was even an entry test to this.
yeah, I
Wow,
think it
so
was just
yeah.
like, are you stupid or not?
Yeah.
you know, like, do you have basic knowledge or do you not of like anything? Because I think high school degree was a requirement
Mhm.
for SAE. You didn't need a college degree to
Right.
apply or anything like that, but I do think high school degree or GED or something equivalent was required. So, which makes
Gotcha.
sense. I mean, if you're going to a music school and you
Yeah,
haven't
totally.
learned that stuff yet, so
Yeah, no, no, totally. If we're gonna talk about like frequencies and cables and you don't know some basic terminology or something, yeah, I can totally see that for
I
sure.
can see it. And, I guess you just learn it to learn it, but like, you're
Mhm.
learning it for the test. You're not learning it for like the
Yeah, yeah.
knowledge yet, until you're taught proper, I think.
Right, right. What was that first mod like? Because I have like a lot of horror stories from Mod One, like
Um,
from what people tell me. I haven't even been to it.
it was, it was dope.
Mm,
I guess I didn't know what to expect. But I do think that if you're able to go and get an education in something that you want to do, whether it's like a trade school specific, um, the way I see it is like you're wasting less time with like everything else that's not very relevant.
hmm.
Maybe general education in general at some point is important, maybe up until high school though. I think there's probably a lot of wasted
Hmm.
curriculum in
Hmm.
college in
Hmm.
general and money for that reason.
Yeah.
So I was super pumped. And like I was always like I don't say a troubled kid, but I always ran my mouth in like school. Like I was known for talking. Anytime I got in trouble was for talking. The couple times I got like detention was like all for talking, like during class and shit like that. But it's interesting that when you get a little older and you actually start to care about like the stuff you're learning, how much that changes. I was in SAE, like, I was kind of that became that nerd of like kids were
Yeah.
talking, you give them the desk there, like, shut up. I'm
Yeah.
trying to like
Yeah.
learn the shit about cables, but um, so
That's really interesting.
I really enjoyed it. I didn't find it like overwhelming, honestly.
Wow.
SE did a really good job, I think, with like breaking up their classes and giving you the right time. So they did it like a week of like classroom lesson for a particular topic, and then they would do like a week um like hands-on for that.
Mm,
So you'd learn about like a channel strip for like a week in the classroom only, and then you're allowed to like go and sit in front of like the SSL and like start to book time and like run signal through it and start to
right.
like, so I like the way they did that. Microphones was a 2 week in classroom class. We had 4 days on wrapping cables,
Wow.
alone. But you did start to see after the first mod, like people start to trickle out,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we started with, I don't know, maybe 30 kids in my class, 35 kids in like my section, maybe half
Yeah.
graduated,
Yeah.
and maybe a handful like actually went into like the business.
Mm, that's fascinating.
Um,
Wow, that's rough.
It's rough. And I couldn't tell you, I don't have like the formula, but I do remember like
Sure.
some of the people's attitudes during class and like during, when you talk about being an intern and you talk about whatever that comes with and kind of like the grunt work that you have to put in the beginning. And a lot of kids were not down with that
Mm-hmm.
idea, you know,
Yeah.
they treated it like, I don't know, like I paid all this money. Like, you think I'm going to pay all this money to come to school, go to school, and then come out and like clean toilets for a year? Like, you're crazy. And honestly, like, I feel them, you know what
I
I mean?
really, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
none of those kids are engineers now.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know
yeah,
anyone that would talk like that or anyone that had that mindset that has been anything successful
yeah.
in terms of
No,
like working
totally.
in the industry,
In the business,
in the
right,
business
right.
itself, you know.
That's
So
fascinating.
I don't know what that means, but
Yeah, I don't know what that means either. Like, because I can understand the sentiment of like you feel like you're ready to like engineer a fucking big artist when you first get into the studio, but you're not ready. You're
you're
not
not.
ready.
You're not. Um, it goes way beyond like the skill set of using Pro Tools.
Yeah.
And you don't really realize it until you get like thrown in a session that like Pro Tools is like not even number one, two, or three on the list in some of these sessions. Signal flow is great and you should know it, but like it is not the most important in particular sessions. You'll
Yeah.
find that like some are really technical and that is cool, but half these sessions that you do, like, that's not even your biggest problem.
Yeah. Pro
There are a
Tools is
lot.
the backdrop to
Yeah. And
everything.
Pro Tools is shit. So if that is how it is and there's bigger problems, then like there's bigger problems.
Oh man, I think that is it. I think people feel like they're ready to go, and like they don't realize that more than half of the job is nothing to do with Pro Tools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why you see a lot of these kids that come out of school and they feel like they've learned Pro Tools, or they do that Pro Tools certification class. I don't even
Which
know
I
what that
still
is.
have. I haven't done that
I've
yet.
never done that. I am not officially certified in Pro
Yeah,
Tools,
me neither.
I guess, according to some paperwork. And but then reverse, they think just because they have that, like they're the best.
Uh
I'd be like, all right, bro, certified Pro Tools, go right ahead, get in that session, go have fun. And they come out of the session, their clothes are ripped up, you know what I
huh.
mean? Their hair's all fucked up, like, and they're just like, oh my God. I'm like, what happened? Like,
Sweating.
yeah, three didn't work for you to record. Like, what went wrong? You know what I mean? And I guarantee it has nothing to do with Pro Tools.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
promise you. But um yeah, no, that's
Oh my
that's kind of how I
god.
ended up in New York. Um
Yeah, yeah.
Up to school. And that was like, yeah, 2012 ish, the beginning of
Specifically for
2012.
SAE, and what is it? A 1 year, 2 year program?
It's like an accelerated
Mm-hmm.
thing. So at the time I was going, you could do part-time, which was like a year and a half split up, or you could do like 10 months straight,
Mm-hmm.
like no breaks.
What'd
So
you
I
do?
did from March straight, and then graduated on like December 28th, like
Wow.
right after the Christmas holiday. So it's just,
2012.
yeah, so it's just like an accelerated, no breaks all the way through. Um, which is better. I thought it would be a little bit extra to like stretch it out.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Rather just get it over with and like start that intern process and all that.
Yeah, where'd you
Um,
intern? First, like engine room?
no, engine room was second for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I my first interview, there's this guy, Danny probably talked about him. This guy Jeff that used to work at SAE, and he was like the kind of the career guy. So he would like set up interviews for you,
Oh,
um,
right, right, right.
like out of school studios.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a place called Stadium Red, which isn't open anymore, which I think
Right.
Danny
Yeah.
had worked at for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had gotten an interview there, which would have been like so ideal. It's in Harlem. It's run by like Just Blaze and Ariel Bourgeot, the mixing engineer.
Nice.
Um, so like just super classic, like obviously super heavy credentialed people. Um, and I was just such a rookie with like the interview process and this career, this field in general. So I like went and did this interview. It was like in a small little B room with like these four guys, and it was like super intimidating. And like I walked away and I was like, sweet, like I think that's probably gonna happen. You know, I think I'm gonna probably get that. And I spoke to the career guy the next day, and he was like, "How'd it go?" And I was like, "It was great." He's like, "Well, what'd you say?" And I was like, "You know, I let him know I wanted to be an engineer, but like I also wanted to produce and like mix and like do all this stuff." He's like, "Yeah, they're not calling you back." And I
Oh.
was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You know, you can't like tell them you want to do all this shit." He's like, "If you go there to be an intern, like you're gonna be there to be like an engineer's intern." You know what I
Mhm.
mean? You can't like you can't want to mix and you can't want to produce and you can't want to do all this like as an intern, like it's too much. And
Mm.
the way he told me, he was like, most studios like are not gonna fuck with that. And
Mm.
I found that pretty interesting. And so I never got a call back. I didn't actually get it.
Mhm.
And then I got an internship at this place called East Side Sound in the Lower East Side. It's been around since like the 70s. They do like
Wow.
older kind of like jazz ensembles and like more just kind of like older pop. I'd
Mhm.
say it would be like even like some Celine Dion styled vocalists and
I see.
a little bit more calm than like an Engine Room or Stadium Red.
Yeah.
And at some point I was talking, I interned there for like 5 months. Um, and I was talking to one of the main engineers there, an older guy, and he pretty much told me the same thing. One time we were riding the train, he asked me what I want to do, and I was like, you know, I like to do production. At the time, I still wanted to do beats, and I like to do production engineer. And he was like, you just need to pick one and
Mm.
like go with it. And that's the second time within the year that I heard two separate people telling me that like I can't do all these things at once, or
Mhm.
I'm not going to be successful somewhere else doing all of these things. Um, and so naturally that led me to like slow up production and like start to focus on like, you know, getting into studios, being like an actual engineer, recording engineer, mixing as well. Um, and then I transitioned to Engine Room. I did like 2 interviews with that guy Benoit, and
Hell
so
yeah.
I did at for like 2.5 months, I was interning at East Side Sound and Engine Room at the same
Oh,
time. I do
wow.
like the morning shift at East Side and the evening shift at Engine Room. So I was doing like
Perfect.
13-hour,
Wow.
14-hour days. Um,
Damn.
yeah. And so when you were interning at the other place, you were one of like two guys, and there was only a second intern if like there was a session going on.
Mhm.
It wasn't like an engine room, it was a lot bigger operation.
Yeah.
Um, there was one bathroom to clean, you know what I mean? Like one little hallway to vacuum. Like it
Right.
wasn't too crazy. But then transitioned to engine room, and then I interned at engine room for like 6 months after
Nice.
that. And then got like switched to GA eventually.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Yes.
I did that
GA.
transition with like I think it was me, Danny, and like some of those people who became like G's at the same time.
Like, you haven't engineered anything yet. Like, you're still just in the intern
Yeah, I
phase.
haven't had like a paid session up to this
Mhm.
point. Still, it's
Right.
almost been a year
Yeah, yeah.
of like just doing
God damn,
the
bro.
bullshit,
That's kind of rough. A
toilets,
year?
coffee, cleaning, wrapping cables, ish.
Wow.
Ish. You know, maybe like 8 months I started like being able to like get practice sessions in, and you know, because as an intern, you're not really getting too many practice sessions in. You
Mhm.
get more of like studio time at engine room once you
Right.
become like a GA.
Mhm.
Then you're able to book. I know the bumpables, I hear they're all different now. They're
Yeah, I'm not sure what the system or the
not
protocol
as
is.
like chill as it used to be. But
For
you
sure.
know, as much as people want to get paid and interns want to get paid or compensated for the train or you know, something, you know, I didn't get that at engine room, but I also didn't get that anywhere else.
Right.
You know, maybe sessions they included to like buy lunch for me,
Mhm.
but like other than that, I never got any money from that. So
Wow,
uh,
that's
but
rough.
but the trade-off is, you know, you get studio time, and that's honestly like that's worth more than like any amount of minimum wage that you'd get
Yeah.
as like an intern. You know, the little
Agreed.
at the time, the little $9, 8.50 an hour, or you
Yeah.
can book the studio that costs 130 an hour, and you can do 12 hours at night for free
Yeah,
every
agreed.
night if you want.
Yeah.
You can bring an artist in, you can track them for free, you could bring a band in if you want, you can, you know, that's like, it took me a while to realize that,
Mm.
to justify the money is that, the amount of studio time, like the amount of cash I would have made versus my bill for studio time, bro, like
Not even a comparison, right?
8 times over minimum. It's
Yeah.
probably thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in free studio time,
Yeah.
that we all got, which is like so dope.
And you were getting your skills and you were like learning the rooms and learning how to manage people.
Yeah,
That's invaluable stuff because that's like stuff that will pay off tenfold down the line.
it's that extra stuff that you learn that when you get that first paid session,
Yeah.
you have experience. You can't work in a room for your first paid session that like you haven't spent time in. Like it won't
Yeah.
it won't go well. Again, if you just
Yeah.
know Pro Tools, like it's not good enough. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Especially in these rooms, like you do have to learn like basic signal flow. You do have to, if mic one cuts out, like you got to know how to be able to patch in the mic two.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, oh, I've only plugged in the mic one, like I don't know anything about that. Like you got to know some workarounds in those big studios, Engine Room, Dubway, East Side Sound. you know there's always workarounds to be learned.
Yeah.
The bigger the studio, the more workarounds,
Right.
because the more expensive it is to like really fix
Maintain.
things proper.
Yeah.
So before you spend 30 racks on fixing a couple channels on the SSL, like you might just have to patch a couple extra times to like get it together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
That's something I learned too when we opened this place, is like, and that's like a whole nother thing. You learn about all those like ins and outs, before you're able to kind of put your hands up and be like, oh, I don't know, like talk to management, or I don't
Yeah.
know, like that's not, but like we are all those people.
Yeah, yeah.
So, if it's talk to management, then I got to turn around, like put a different hat on and turn like, hello,
Right.
I'm the manager. How can I help you? You got to learn, like, you have to learn all those, you understand those concepts a little bit better when like you're in charge of
Yeah.
everything
Oh, dude, like being
ultimately.
the operations manager at Engine Room pushed me to learn so it's because you guys would ask me all these questions, like, oh, but how do you? I'm like, oh fuck, I don't know. I gotta figure this shit out for these guys. It pushed me so hard because I had to know everything. That was like, there was no
And in a
excuse.
place where like there was a person to take care of that, it
Yeah.
would mean that like we do less. The
Mm.
cable get hissed, and I'd be like, I don't know, but I'm gonna wake up Jeet at 5 in the morning on Tuesday and be like, you need to get here right now. This fucking cable isn't working. And you'd probably be like, the fuck? Like, but like, Benoit, before you, Benoit used to be like that operation manager. Like
Yeah.
he used to just, I'm sure. I mean, he left and moved to France. So if that means, if that talks about the stress of the job, he got up and left and moved to a
You moved
different
all
continent.
the way to
Yeah.
France, got as far away as
Yeah.
possible.
He's from there, and like he got married and shit, and like ended up having a kid, but like he was like, yeah, fuck it. I'm going away somewhere else. They don't bother me. And for the first like year after he, like, we would still email
Oh
him,
yeah.
Benoit, channel 2 on the
Yeah.
SSLs, like, what's going on? He'd be like, I don't fucking know. Like, I'm not, but like, yeah, but you used to know. So like, what's the problem? Like, you know, or can you train this new guy? Like this guy Jeet sitting here. Like, can you tell
Sweating.
Jeet how it used to be? Like, how to fix
Dude,
this
I used
problem?
to I used to reach out to Benoit, like even I would say for the first 3 to 4 months, I would still reach out to him and be like, "Oh, dude, how did you set up those cameras again? How do you access like the thing? Like what?"
Well, the thing is he was there like during the build of Engine Room. Like it was Mark, Scotty, and I believe Benoit, and I believe it was those three guys when they were like building up Engine Room. If not, he was the first like employee that they
Mm-hmm.
hired. I don't know if he was maybe there when they started the whole process, but like he understood like the entire, from the ground up.
From the
Benoit
ground
knew
up,
like all
yeah.
of the systems. So he knew like he was the one that did all the backup systems and the, all those drive systems and all the computers, and probably involved in like a lot of the wiring. And
Yeah.
um, so he was a good resource because not only did he learn, but like he set it up. So he was really good with like workarounds and being able to fix. And at the time, like one of the only guys that could do that. Mark
New.
used to
Yeah.
reference to Benoit all the
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know? Um,
That's a good point. He was there, like he knew yeah, he did set up the cameras, he set up the backup system. Yeah, he set a lot of that stuff up from
yeah,
what
he
I
was like one of
remember.
the original guys there.
The
Yeah.
OG.
So he knew like a lot of the signal flow and like how everything worked,
Wow.
which is pretty dope.
So after GA, like you started getting sessions?
Yeah.
I mean, wait,
I,
how did you transition to GA? Did somebody just stop
yeah,
coming or
the people, so like after the first wave of internship, like the GAs at the time were not dropping off yet. So like we couldn't be transitioned
uh
into GAs yet. So he kind of had to be like, I can offer you another like 2.5 months of internship, and then like we'll transition those
mhm,
guys out. Um, so I did it. What's another 2 months? You know
mhm.
what I mean? At that point. So I just stuck around and then just kind of transitioned into that GA position. I kind of forget who was GA with me, honestly. I want to say Danny or like Joey or one of them.
Yeah,
Um, Probably Danny, maybe.
yeah.
Danny, I think, started like he got in the class like 1 or 2 after my class at SAE,
I see.
and like did the exact like similar transition, but like just a class behind. So by
Yeah,
the time
yeah.
we got to, so honestly, better for him because by the time we both GAs were available, like we both
Yeah.
got that. So I was kind of the only one that had to spend like the extra time doing intern work, which wasn't that fun. But you know, um and then I did was GA, and then I started getting sessions while I was GA.
Mhm.
Um which really was like podcasting at the time.
Podcasting.
At that time, like right at that transition for me, Loudspeakers Network, which is the network that does like
All the
Combat
yeah.
Jack Show, The Read, Brilliant Idiots, like all those podcasts that everybody knows and loves at Engine Room. It's like when they started transitioning at the time, it was only Combat Jack Show and The Read
Mhm.
and maybe Fan Bros
Oh, yeah,
at the
Fambros.
time. And they were recording like under the Source, like the Source magazine. I think they had like their own like studio that they were doing, and somehow they were transitioning to Engine Room. And so their first session at Engine Room, Scotty gave to me,
Wow.
um, and it wasn't even full price. It was like $10 an hour. After all that waiting, like I got a $10 an hour session, which is so little, but um, and it was a Combat Jack show, and it was a session with him and Rap Radar, which is like
Mhm.
a big website with Elliot Wilson and B Dot. And so they came and they did like a 2 hour episode podcast. I had never done a podcast before. I never done a session at Engine Room. And after the session, I went to go like hit stop on Pro Tools. And when I hit stop, there was no audio files in Pro Tools.
What?
Like there was not one audio file. And so I sat there and I instantly like,
Oh god.
of course my heart like dipped into my stomach. And at the time, I don't know if you know Ivan,
Yes, yes,
but
yes I do.
Ivan was like the one who kind of was like coaching me and like training me in these rooms. So I grabbed him and I was like, yo, bro, I don't know like what's going on. And you know, part of it, I guess my mistake, like I had the mix window up during tracking. So
Mhm.
like you didn't see the files, and you know how they set it up at Engine where like you leave and come back and leave and come back. And so I started looking through, and I remember sitting there with everybody in the room and knowing that there was no audio files. Like
Oh
whatever just
shit.
happened was not a thing. This 2 hour interview, their first session at Engine Room, my first paid session. And I was kind of doing the blank, like just like at the computer screen, staring at the Finder window,
Oh
knowing that there's no
god.
file, like just thinking about how I'm going to say this. And I remember like I said it out loud and I was like, something happened, something glitch. And I still to this day do not know like what happened.
Oh my
And I was like,
god.
there's no audio files. And the two guys, like the guests, like B Don Elliot Wilson, got like real pissed, got out of
Yeah.
the room, like started cursing, like walked out the room. And Combat, um, who was not a small guy, you know what I mean? He was a big guy. He was a big attorney. He signed like Jay-Z's first contracts. He was an editor at the Source Mat, like not a nobody, you know,
Yeah.
just sitting
Yeah.
there next to me. And I kind of was like, there's no audio files, man. Like, there's no episode. And he like did the dad thing where like he closed his eyes and was just like, can you go ahead and tell me that one more time? And I was like, oh my God, he's gonna beat my ass. Like he's gonna kill me. And I was just like, there's no audio files. And he just like did a breath and like just stood there in silence. And I was like,
Oh
oh
fuck.
God, I'm about to get destroyed, dude. Like in my head, I was like, I'm never getting a session again here.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna get a paid session again. Like Scotty's gonna wreck my name. Like Endrum's gonna shit on me. Like they're gonna shit on me. Like, you know, that's how it goes. Like you have one or two bad sessions and like, I don't know, you can easily be forgotten. You know, you
Yeah.
have to like do your best to like do your best. And then he kind of just looked at me and like the super calm voice was just like, all right, like we'll try this again next week. And just
Wow.
like left. And I was like, you know, I was waiting for the call from Scotty. Of course, in the morning, I get a call from Scotty, like, I need you to come in. I was like, all right, man, like came in. He's like, what happened? And I was just ready for him to tell me, like, you know, you're not ready or whatever, whatever. And he's like, they're pissed, but like they want to come back. And um, you know, he said he's still like okay to like work with you. And I
Jesus.
was like really amazed. But you know, then after that, we did like, I don't know, probably over 600 episodes
Yeah.
for Loudspeakers Network across almost 9 shows at one point a week. So um, yeah, I don't want to say the rest is history, but like
Dude.
that second opportunity
Yeah.
um, changed it for me because then that helped me put me on the map for like, you know, at least podcasting work and just like really start to build up. And you know, they were doing 7, 8, 9 shows a week, all the different
Yeah.
shows, The Read, Brilliant
And
Idiots.
you were doing all of them.
I was doing all of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like some people from the Jersey Shore like were doing a podcast. Vinny and that guy Sammy Sweetheart, I was doing their podcasts. Um, just anyone that came through Loudspeakers, I was doing like Brilliant Idiots. I
Yeah.
did the first like 120 episodes or 100 episodes. Tax Stone, Tax Season, all his first episodes. Um, and so it worked out.
Dude, yeah,
But
you were the king of podcasts. That's like your thing. That's like your title at
I
Engine Room.
know I did not see that like happening like that, but it just it was cool because it was somewhat consistent.
Yeah.
Just podcasting is weekly episodes. So if you had 8 shows, like you knew at a minimum, each show was going to do a 2-hour session a week.
Right.
So, you know, you could bank on 16 hours a
Mm-hmm.
week
Of
minimum.
work.
And some of these shows went 4 hours, 5 hours. You know, we did a recording where we did 5 hours straight. The episode was 5 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was cool. And, you know, you always do better once you work with the same people more and more often. You
Yeah.
learn them, you start to learn each individual person, you start to learn the mics that go to each person, the preamp that you use, the preamp settings that you use, you know, how the notepad and the water goes on the table for each person. And like you just, and it makes things just run a lot smoother.
Oh, that's
Um,
interesting. Like everybody's personal preference.
it, it's part of, that's part of what I was talking about earlier with like session work. It's
Yeah.
the way I say it's way beyond doing the actual working. One thing Mark always used to say to us in these meetings was like, you know, we are in the service industry. He was always very keen on like letting us know that like we're here to service people. That might mean recording them, but that also might
Mm-hmm.
mean bringing them coffee, getting them a sandwich, or whatever it is they need. Like that's the industry ultimately that we're in.
Yeah.
So it was little things, and I start to get texts when I didn't do the shows from certain hosts, be like, "Oh, like, can you text this guy and tell him to get us some water?" Or like, "How come I don't have a notepad in front of my mic today?" Just these little things that like people do notice when they don't have them. That
Yeah.
I think was like part of like helped make everything go smooth. And of course, the audio has to get taken care of. And um,
Is that so? The personal preferences thing, is that something you like just learned from those people's like in passing, or like did they specifically mention like, hey, every week I want a notepad or?
No, it's just things that I would do. You know, you kind of, I think part of it being an engineer is like reading the room and
Mm,
understanding like the room and the attitudes and like, you know, if people are joking and there's a lot of jokes being back and forth, like maybe that's a good time for you to like chime in if you feel it's right. But like if it's very serious or very, you know, like people are pissed off because they lost their files, like maybe you don't make a joke about that, or maybe you don't chime in, or maybe you do be that fly on the wall that they tell you in school that you need to be.
mhm.
Um, but you know, you just start doing things like, oh, they like to take notes, so I'm just going to leave a pad and paper next to them. And so it gets to the point where they're so repetitive that they go for that pad and paper to write a note down, and they notice when they don't have it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, which is why podcasting, I mean, I know a lot of people think that podcasting is very easy,
Hmm.
especially from an engineer's perspective. Like you just hit record and like make sure nothing happens. And of course, you can do it that way. I don't like doing it that way anymore, even though I did it that way for a long time. You know, I like to be like an engineer. So like I like to be in front of faders. I like to be in front of preamps. I like to, you know, ride preamps when people are getting louder and softer. And, you know, you can put it to one setting and that's it. But like, you know, why not? If you're not sitting there copying takes and like doing things all the time, it's just 3 hours you're staring at the screen. Like, why not, you know, move some
Ride
gain
them.
around and like ride the faders and why not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I prefer that. I prefer to see the system. I prefer to be able to save a thousand times.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of podcasting, the extra work comes from like I think some of that other stuff. Um, you don't want someone to come and book, even an artist. You don't want them to come and book every week at the studio and feel like a brand new experience
Hmm.
every week at the studio. You know, if
Hmm.
you have an artist that you know likes this type of tea, like every time you book them, you know, you should make sure you have that kind of tea
Right.
in you know in the cabinet or whatever it is, because they'll pick up on habits. Most artists in general aren't like so sporadic. Most artists, even though if the process is crazy or not, they do have a process and they
Hmm.
do kind of mimic that every time they're in the studio.
Right.
So, you know, whatever that is, whether the artist doesn't write their lyrics until they get here, whether they always write it ahead of time, like they do have a process. And so I think it's those comforts that make people feel more comfortable and like overall experience. You know, if you're a great engineer but you're a shitty person,
Right.
you know, Beyonce's not going to want to work with you. I promise you, she'll probably work with you more if you're a nicer person and still learning Pro Tools.
Yeah.
If you have a personality, like you're a lot more likely to get that session than to
Mm.
be like such a good person, but like be an asshole. Like you're not going to be put into the room
Right. Right.
the way I see it.
That's
It's
true. People
super,
want
it's
to just
super
work with,
vibey.
yeah, people want to just work with people they vibe with. Totally. I
People don't want
respect
to
that.
sit down every week and like, you know, have you like, oh, this week I'm going to try out 4 different mics on your vocals for this podcast every week. It's like they want to come in, they want to do things like repetitive, you know, they're doing their
Yeah.
show repetitive every week. It gets released the same time every week. Like they want to come and record the same
Yeah.
every week. It's
Yeah.
why people don't go to a different studio every time they record a podcast
Hmm.
or music. You know, you kind of try to find a place and you get comfortable. The engineer starts to learn you. You don't have to tell them back and forth like, oh, I know this is how they record, so I'm going to compensate here, or I know this is what they like, so I'm going to compensate here. That comfortable, you know, people just want to come in and like record. They don't want to spend the time getting comfortable every single
Every
session.
time.
um so it worked out with podcasting in that
Yeah,
sense.
dude.
And it gave me a lot of good experience. Some of my like discography and clients I work with, I have a lot of like the guests that were on these shows. And yeah, I didn't necessarily record like their album or anything like that, but um, you do get put in the room with big people,
Hmm.
big clients. You know, we've done a lot of people, anywhere from district attorneys to huge A-lister artists to, you know, OGs, people that invented hip hop, people that, you know,
Wow.
put all like we've been able to get all these people on the show, all these guest-based shows. Um, and it helped build a kind of a backbone for like working with that level of clientele. You know, it doesn't matter if Jay-Z is recording his album or a podcast, like he's still in the room and
Hmm.
you're still doing work for him. You're still
Hmm.
recording him.
Yeah.
Um, And the same bullshit applies. You know what I mean? Like if the mics don't work, like he's gonna be pissed. And
Mhm.
even more so because it's live. So
Right.
well, in the sense of like they come here, some of these people are here in town for the night.
Yeah.
West
Yeah.
Coast based. You can't just say like come back tomorrow when the system is
Right.
up and running. You have to do it now. And if you
Yeah.
don't, you
Yeah.
lose the so there's even more pressure, I think, with making sure like the audio is tight, you know, making sure Pro Tools is the most finicky thing in the world. So making sure it doesn't do anything wrong for 3 hours straight is tough. You know, when you're doing vocals, you're doing, a 30-second take, you're doing a 10-second take, you're stopping,
Yeah.
pausing, stopping. But to have a system run for 3 hours, Pro Tools out of all systems without any hiccup, and it's all happened to me.
Yeah. I'm
Anything
sure.
possible has happened to me. I had a session where I couldn't record. Every time I hit record in the Mez, Pro Tools would go and then just stop and then be like, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And the client luckily was local, so we were able to rebook them. But turns out like the work drive had 2.5 gigs available. You know what I mean? Shit that like you were supposed to check, not you or Benoit, or get that shit together. You know, things like I'm expected to come in this room and like just hit record and know what's going on. I don't check like the hard
Oh
drives. You
man.
know what I mean? But because of that, because of the first problem that I had, it's the classic. Like every problem I had has like made me that much better of an engineer. Because now every time I sit and go to record, I go and check the fucking work drive first.
Right. Right.
I make sure the work drive has 100 gigs on it to
Yeah.
be able to record. I make sure that, you know what I mean? All those
Yeah.
issues. I started putting like the big clock up on the
Ah.
podcast
Right. Right.
thing,
Right.
never the mix window, so people can like see the waveforms and like the recording, so you can't mistakenly not have it recording. All that's because I fucked it up
Yeah.
once
Every
upon a
every fuck
time.
up has turned into a lesson.
Every fuck up gets put onto like my before starting a session checklist,
Checklist. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
which is like is the most helpful because
Mm-mm.
you can't predict problems if you don't know that they can be problems.
Right.
I
Right.
didn't know that like having 2 gigs on a work drive meant I couldn't record anything. But ever since then, like now I know, like I always check the work drive before a session, or if it's skipping or Pro Tools being weird, one of the first things I do is go check the work drive.
Yeah.
You know, um, same as like buffer size and all that stuff. Like all those things you learn that can be problems, you add that to your checklist of
Mm.
like. So now when I sit down, and then you do things to help prevent that in the future. If you're podcasting or recording a mic and the mic, you have it like this, but you find that the mic always so top heavy that it always falls down.
Mm-hmm.
Now you position it down and up a little bit, in a different way, or you tape up the mic stand on the floor so it doesn't fall over, or it's just all those things that like you add. So there's like, this happened last time and I want to try to eliminate that this time. So
Yeah.
like if the mic keeps falling because it's so top heavy, like maybe you have to put it like this instead of
Right.
like this, because it's going to fall over or whatever,
I
whatever the
just
case is.
realized that I don't think we got the proper podcast stands until after you were done with the podcast stuff. Like
Yeah,
you were probably still using the classic stands.
I was a great, yeah, you had those arm stands.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I started using those a little bit like at the desk
Uh-huh.
when they finally got them.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, for the most part, a lot of it was just regular mic stands. Um, I don't know. I tried to make it more entertaining for myself. Um, Spending the extra time like taping cables literally along the entire perimeter of the wall so that nobody was stepping on cables. Trying to make the setups nice, just trying to make it more interesting because it can get stale.
Sure.
Um, and especially with podcasts, it would benefit from like a permanent setup
Mm-hmm.
somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So to do that setup every time, bringing in new gear, bringing in preamps from Dubway into these rooms every time, there's a lot. But
Yeah.
that was when interns were great, and you could train an intern to learn your setup,
Setup, yeah.
and then you call them an hour out, and you're like, set this shit up. I'm on my way, and when I get there, I'll do a sound check, and so that became more useful.
And that was good for the interns because they could learn too.
Yeah,
Right.
and I don't mind teaching them, and
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're there to help me, like I'll teach you at least how I like shit so that I
Right.
don't have to like redo stuff or if if you're setting up, 10 podcasts a week, why not learn? I don't want to walk into the room and have 10 different setups
Yeah.
every week. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that helped me just like get in the room with a lot of clients, get in the room with like a lot of people, and um, just learn sessions.
Yeah.
Um,
Were you doing like a lot of sessions outside of podcasting during this?
at that one like chunk of time, I wasn't doing too much. That was taking up a lot of like my week in
Mm-hmm.
terms of session work. Um, you know how it is. Like I think Scott probably got comfortable with
Mm-hmm.
like me doing those, and how it is. He puts you with somebody, and if they like you, like you're that kind of becomes your client until it
Yeah.
doesn't anymore. So because of that, I was getting all these podcast gigs. There's still 3, 4, 5 guys who are still hungry for sessions. So Scott wasn't, I don't think he was going to just like, I wasn't going to be his first call for like all these
Right.
other sessions. There's a lot of people
Right.
that weren't doing any podcasts or any of that work. So they'd probably be the first more on call for some of these like regular tracking sessions,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
which I was fine with. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't mind. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, surprisingly.
Nice.
And I still do some podcasting now, so I
Oh
still,
shit.
yeah, I still like it. I still
Oh,
like
dude,
doing
that's
it.
good.
Yeah.
So, huh. So when so what is this? Where are we at now? 2013, 14? Like you
Ish.
must how many
Yeah.
episodes? Oh man, you must have recorded so many. You said
Yeah.
600 episodes? That's fucking
I
insane.
started writing them down. Like every
Ah,
invoice I got, I'd like hand write it in like a journal.
wow.
Just like every session, um, just because I thought that'd be something cool to look
Yeah.
at. Um, but there's computers, and so after a couple years of that, I like stopped. But I think I stopped after like, I don't know, 450 or something.
Wow.
And then did it for like another 8, 9 months.
Hmm.
um and then I left to do some work, some road work,
Yeah, I remember
for a
this.
couple months. And I think during that time, some other guys were starting to take up some of these podcasts,
Like Shailene and
Shailene and all them. And
yeah.
um I didn't want to just like come back and be like, give me my podcast. You know what I mean?
Right.
They weren't mine necessarily,
Right. Right.
um and I remember coming back after like being on a tour for like 3 months, and I did the podcast like I always do. Like we set up and then you like go outside and like sit in the hallway, or like, and I remember after like coming off the road, like, you're moving around a lot, and I just got so jittery. I was like, this sucks. Like,
Wow.
I'm just sitting here,
Yeah.
because you couldn't be in front of the systems,
Yeah.
in front of
Yeah.
Pro Tools and like ride faders or doing things. So like it's every 10 minutes you're going in there, and you train these guys enough to know that like, here's what Pro Tools likes when is like when it's recording. So if it's not doing this, like this clock is moving, and if the clock doesn't move anymore, it means you need to stop. And so these guys would get good enough that I'd be in the other room and they'd be like, "Yo, Samir, like the clock stopped." You know what I mean? So they wouldn't
Yeah,
go on
yeah,
and like,
yeah.
so like, but I just sit out there and like listen, and I wouldn't be in front of the system. And I was like, I just hate it. I was just moving
Yeah.
around so much, like doing all this work, like setting up shows every night and like doing all this shit. And I was like, man, this is kind of boring
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't be like active with it. And so I think I like slowly just like pulled
Transitioned
away
out.
from like
Yeah.
those. And I think it's at that time where I started to think about like the next thing, which
Mm.
then would result in the studio here. But
Was that tour like were you the sound guy? The live sound guy?
I was doing like road management
Mm-hmm.
for them. So just kind of managing the band on the road.
Nice.
Um, you at that level, you kind of play a couple roles.
Sure.
It wasn't like a list budget necessarily, but like national tour,
Mm-hmm.
and parts of Canada as well. Um, so just doing a lot of like the day-to-day like operations, um, getting with like the venue reps and venue management, and like dealing with tech writers and
Mm.
um, proper setup documents and stage setup, and dressing room riders, and
Yeah.
orchestrating travel,
Oh wow.
hotels, um, And then also it's a band, Prince George, or a group of friends of mine growing up. So um, familiar with like their sound and shit. And they didn't end up traveling with like their own sound guy. Um, so I would kind of be like a reference for them on the road. Like I'd sit with the sound guy during setup and like, so I'd
Nice.
help do setup and I'd kind of like explain to him like, just their overall like, mixed layout,
Right.
so to speak. If you don't know them, you don't know them. You know what I mean? It's
Sure.
um after that you realize bands like really benefit from like having a sound
Oh
guy,
God. Yeah. Yeah.
their
For
own guy that they
sure.
travel with. You can always go to, like, we went to good venues. We did the Troubadour in LA. We've done like, every major festival that there is other than like Coachella,
Mm,
um, Austin City Limits and like all that shit.
that's
And so like
awesome.
you do get good guys, like good, crew guys that work there, all those union guys that are good with like engineering. But how do they know that this band is more bass forward or not
Right.
unless they know that's what they are? So
Right.
just kind of being there, like, yeah, keep vocals up here, like try to keep this more like bass driven, or so kind of been like a point reference guy.
Nice.
And then like just chilling stage side and being like a tech during the
Yeah.
performance. If a drum machine, the power flies out, run up and like plug the drum machine in, or a cable goes bad, or a DI goes wrong, or everything else, collecting money at the end
Wow.
of the night, doing
Yeah.
all that
Yeah.
shit. Uh, so just super active,
Yeah.
which was really fun. I really enjoyed like, as like a producer and like a musician, and then as like an engineer, it's all like behind the scenes. Like you're in the cave, you're in the studio, like you're doing everything, um, kind of behind closed doors.
Sure.
So the one reason I liked touring was to be able to see, like, imagine you working on a song, you writing a song, then you
Hmm.
working on it, you're recording it, get mastered, it gets put out on Spotify, and then 6 months later you go to a show and you see it being played in front of 1,000 people, all of them singing the
Ah.
lyrics, all of them like seeing people crying and taking photos and like being a real fan. It kind of made it a full circle for me.
Mm,
Like you're there during the creative process, like you're there like in the bedroom when the idea like sparks, and now you're at this venue in front of thousands of people, and you're seeing people wear the t-shirts and singing the songs and like being a diehard fan. um
that's
and
so awesome.
I enjoyed that because we usually stay in the cave
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like just
Yeah.
push the shit out and then just keep staying in here and like working on the next thing to push out. But um to see it and see that reaction, and you're kind of seeing the full circle of things, was dope. And it was super nice to like go to a venue and it be completely empty, and then in
Hmm.
2 hours there's an entire concert happening, you know what I mean, for a 50-minute set.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
break it all down in less than an hour, and you leave and it's completely empty again. And then you just do that every night in a new place, every single day, every night. And it's like, it's nuts.
Yeah,
But
that's
it
so true. We don't get to see the other side of it for the most part.
we
Like the
don't,
crowds and the fans and
with music that you enjoy, but also music that you've worked on, to be able to go
Mhm.
see that. It's like, oh shit. You think
Yeah,
about yourself, and you're not going to be a fanboy with a lot of the music that you work on just because you're so part of it. You like it, but
sure.
you're not going to be like, you're not going to put on those headphones for the first time and hit play to a new song and be like, oh shit, like this is amazing. You don't get that with music you
Right,
work on. You've
right.
heard it 700 times, but
Yeah.
1,000 times by the time the song comes out. So if you're still bopping your head, like, it's a good track.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that experience of like experiencing a new song for the first time as like
Mhm.
a fan of music, you don't get that very often working on music. So to
Yeah.
go see that and see other people, and then seeing the merch table getting flooded after with people that want to take photos and buy all this shit, it's just like, it's so dope.
Dude.
So I enjoyed like that kind of full circle experience.
Wow. Yeah,
um
I can imagine after that coming back to podcasts. Like, oh
in
shit.
the current setup, like the set it and forget it and like just sit in the room, just kind of like, it made me really anxious. And I was
Yeah,
like,
I can
I don't
imagine.
necessarily have to run around, but like I need to be a little bit more like active, at least during my sessions. So I think as that was happening, and like at that time people were already kind of taking over some of these podcasts,
Mhm.
at Engine Room and Loudspeakers ended up getting like their own room. and all
Mm-hmm.
that, I kind of was just like, all right, what's the next step? Um, and that's when we kind of like started thinking about the studio.
I didn't even honestly, I didn't even know you and Danny were like close like that. Like I didn't know that you guys
Honestly,
even
we
started talking about it.
we became. I mean, obviously, we all became friends at
Mm-hmm.
Engine Room. I mean, I make the joke like, I have a lot of people that I know in the city, but like people that I really like still talk to is like pretty much like you, Danny, Joey, Mike Bader,
Yeah.
Lee, Joe, Christine, like all people that like are exclusively people from Engine Room
Yeah.
only, and like that's it. So like, you're there doing 10-hour shifts every day. Because when we were there, it wasn't. I heard now it's a little hectic, and there's
Mm.
just like mad interns, and everyone's getting like 2 shifts a month or something.
Yeah,
I
what
don't know
was
if
it
that's
like
true,
when you started? Like how many like how did
bro.
that
We're
work?
there every day. Like
Mm.
they had 5 of us like on shift at once. You had like the
Oh
morning
wow.
and the night
Mm-hmm.
shifts. Um, morning was a time and ended in the afternoon, but night shift, who fucking knows when that ended?
Yeah, yeah,
You go
yeah.
there 3 p.m. and like you could leave at 9, but you're probably leaving at like 4 a.m.,
Right, right.
3 a.m.
I think
Um,
when I got to operations manager, became officially uh, two interns in the morning, two different interns at night. Yeah, something like that. And then those each intern would have like three shifts a week, so
yeah,
less work but more people.
probably like that now. Or when we were
Mm-hmm.
there, like 3 guys at a time, maybe 3, 4 shifts a week.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody was chilling. So like if you had a morning shift, like you just hang out
Mm-hmm.
after. That would be the time you'd go into a room for a bumpable if it was open, or
Mm-hmm.
you play pool or just hang out with people. If that mez was open, you 3 other dudes would just go up there and hang out, play
Yeah,
music on the speakers
yeah,
and just
yeah.
like chill. And I think Rohan was saying this in his like, you had your shift, which is like your time to like kind of like be
Yeah,
on call, but then like, you had all this extra time that you could have just gone home, but you could also just take the time and like, learn the room, learn all these other guys. If you knew someone that was having a session and they were allowed you to sit in, you just ask like, oh, can I sit in for your session for a half hour? And if it was cool with the clients, like you'd go in there for a half hour and just kind of be around, um,
yeah.
which I
That's
thought was,
definitely a family vibe, right? Right.
yeah, I thought it was pretty important. And it was cool that they let us do that.
Yeah,
They let you kind of linger. They give you access to like these studios. I think every time there's a new generation of like us, we want to do like less and less and less
yeah.
and less and put less time in. Everyone says like people are more entitled now. Each generation that goes by feels that much more entitled. But I tell some people I interned or worked for free for a year, and you tell that to someone in school now, and they're like, fuck that. I'm not doing
Uh,
that. But then you talk to someone who's older than you, and they're like, oh, I did it for 2 years.
yeah,
Oh, you got to touch the SSL in 4 years of interning? Like, you're a lucky guy. You know what I mean?
yeah.
The older and further back you go, like the longer and the more exclusive the
Yeah,
industry was. You
yeah.
now with the computer and Pro Tools and in the box, it's a little different. Before, when all there was the fucking SSL, that was a $500,000. Like some little intern, 2 months of learning and grabbing sandwiches wasn't going to be allowed to touch an SSL or a
Right,
Neve or
right.
anything like that. The more digital things were, the more accessible they've become.
Yeah.
And I think the more people feel like they know, because, oh,
Mm,
I have Pro Tools on my laptop, so I should be able to use the Mez like no problem.
mm,
Um, and so I think they want to wait less and less and less and think that they have to put in less time. Oh, I'm just going to intern for a month
mm.
because like I deserve
Well, it's
money or
also yeah, I guess so, but I also think yeah, like people can just record at home. So I think it's only natural, like if you can record full on records at home, it's only natural to start getting a feeling like, oh well, why can't I use the Mez? I mean, I do this shit at home. Like
yeah.
I can empathize with that, you know? Like
No, I get it. But
yeah,
it's before when that's all there was,
right.
it has a lot more exclusive like studio time when you record it on tape. It's a
Yeah.
lot more exclusive, a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
Everybody wasn't just like getting in the room and being able to touch this gear.
That's funny.
Um,
Like, do you think that this, what we're talking about now, relates to like when we were talking about the studio time that you got for free? You didn't like understand the value of it then, but over time you did. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
no,
Yeah.
I do, because you have to learn some signal flow when you work in the box, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like internal signal flow, but it's not
Right.
the same signal
It's
flow as
not.
like an analog studio or a studio that has analog gear. Um, Understanding gain staging more in that
Mm-hmm.
aspect, and like signal flow as a whole, it it's different, and it's again like one of those things like, okay, you worked on the Pro Tools and computer, great, go have a session in the Mez and see what happens when your one input that you've used to using craps out because the patch bay decides to break on that input. Do you know how to take it and patch it into mic 2? Do you know how to switch preamps? Do you know how to, and when you're using those studios, you're using out of the box gear.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're using Pro
Yeah.
Tools and maybe not any of the 30 channels in front of you, but like you are using an outboard pre, an outboard compressor. You are using the patch bay. Even
Right.
in our studio here, it's very much like an in the box studio, but like we have an analog pre, we have an analog compressor, and it's all being patched in that before hitting Pro Tools. Like,
Right.
so you do have to understand like a little bit of that in order to.
Totally.
So I think because it's more accessible, people feel like they have to spend less time learning it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and of course, every generation before the one that's talking shit is like, you got to put in your fucking time, kid.
Right.
Like, you're so entitled, you fuck. And like the same people as me complaining about spending a year for free. Someone was like,
Right.
yo, I barely got to touch an SSL in 3 years.
Right.
Like, you're lucky you got to be put, even work in a room as an intern in front of an
Yeah.
SSL. Like, and so after I learned that, I'm kind of just like, all right, fuck these kids. Like, you got to spend a little bit of time, man. Like, you know, you you want to keep it a little bit of like a. It's always been a more of like a exclusive society ish.
Mm,
Like engineers and studios. Like when you talk about studios in a certain city, it's always 4 or 5 that come to your head. Yeah, there's 1,000 studios, but like there's only a couple that really pop up in people's brains all the time. Um, and engineers, like it's still exclusive, and having our own place and getting files sent to us or projects sent to us of kids that have recorded somewhere else,
mm-hmm.
the quality of some of this work is awful.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
I don't mean to be rude to anybody, but like some people really suck.
yeah.
And but I really think it's because of that. It's because they learn how to
Mm,
record arm a Pro Tools track and they know the mic is hooked up, but they don't know gain staging. They don't know anything about the proximity effect. They don't know anything about mic placement. They don't know any of that shit.
mm,
But they think because it's in a computer and the classic, like, fix it later, we'll fix it in the mix, we'll EQ it later, we'll do this later. Um, that's like more of like the new school mentality. Not for
mm,
everybody, but the people that find it more accessible are like, I don't need to go to school for this because I can just get Pro Tools on my computer and there's YouTube. Yeah, but like it sounds awful. It sounds bad. And like it really separates I think good engineers from just anybody. You know?
yeah,
The
yeah.
problem is what the industry accepts. If the
Mm,
industry accepts that type of work, that type of thing, why
interesting.
why would anyone want to work different? Someone would say, I
Interesting.
don't need to worry about signal flow or gain staging because I made this shit and
Right.
it's on, hot new hip hop, or it's on the radio right now. And that's Nicki
Mm,
Minaj song got recorded in a bathroom.
mm-hmm.
And why do I need to go to school? Why do I need to do that when
Right.
none of these guys are doing it?
Mm,
So I think, I don't know. I think quality of work can also go down in that aspect.
sure.
Um, and again, like I am not, almost what Danny was saying, like I am not the most educated, like hardcore. I know everything in and out about every little thing about engineering. Um, but I do feel comfortable in saying that I do know like all the hardcore foundation of recording and like
Mm,
how to do it proper. And I think learning that can really help you kind of separate yourself from
The
um,
rest,
the rest of the
the
people. It's the same reason people come here and they're like, oh, I did this song in my friend's basement. So like, I don't really know. And they spend 2 hours here and they're like, I've never heard my voice like that in my life,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know? And it's that reaction, which is like, yeah, like stop fucking recording it
Oh my
in,
god. I
your friend's
remember
kitchen.
I remember like this must have been, I can't remember how long ago it was, and hopefully the person is not watching this, but whatever.
I
But I
hope they are.
remember, like, what the fuck did you
Yeah.
say?
The fuck you say to me?
No, but I remember I got this album to mix from this band, very, very eclectic, very interesting music that, I don't think, is very accessible, but that's the kind of shit that fascinates me. But I remember they recorded it in somebody's basement, and like you could hear like the washer dryer, like
Yeah.
literally right there
What
going
are we
off.
doing?
Oh my god, that's
And I
so
bet you
funny.
they heard that and then we're like, oh yeah, we're gonna fix that in the mix. And then you get the files and they're like, oh, can't you just, it's everyone's favorite line. Can't you just fix it in the mix? It's like, how would you like me to fix that? It's the same way as you get 2 tracks, instrumentals, and you're like, can you turn the bass down?
Yeah.
Like, no, I can't. You know, I'm mad that you bounce that out. And like, they'll fix that in the mix. Like, oh, the vocals are too soft. Like that'll get fixed in the master. It's like, I don't
Oh.
think it's gonna, you know, I
Oh,
don't
that's
think it's gonna get fixed.
hilarious. That's all. That's like the meta gain stage, I guess. Yeah.
It's, I think, every, it's textbook, but every good recording starts with like a good performance.
Mm-hmm.
You can achieve what you want in the beginning. Why wouldn't you?
Right.
If all you had to do was turn off your fucking washing machine just to get a better, instead of sitting there and trying to EQ a washing machine out of a vocal, like good luck. You know what I mean? Like good luck. There's no, like, you don't pull up a waveform and then there's just like a washing machine sound that you can just eliminate. It's
Oh,
all
dude, they're getting
intertwined.
there. They're
I,
getting there.
I know. And this is why kids aren't going to learn this shit. They'll start recording radio records walking down the street in their iPhone and be like, just take the cars out in the mix. And it's going to cause a big problem.
Oh my god, that's
And like,
hilarious.
we're going to be obsolete, bro. It's it's only going to get worse.
Walking down the street.
Yeah, seriously. Oh, just,
Oh my
that
god.
scratch track that someone recorded on the train so they don't forget the song.
Oh,
Like,
that's gonna be the record.
let's use this. I prefer this demo better. And it's like, you
Oh
hear in the
my
background like
god.
doors closing, and you hear the doors closing.
Oh
Like,
fuck. Just EQ
it's,
it out.
yeah, just EQ it out. Isn't there a plugin for that? The washing machine elimination plugin.
Oh,
You know,
dude. He
it's
might have given me a great idea to make a lot of money. The
where
washing machine EQ.
I just need 25%. You can do whatever you want with that. Yeah, the washing machine EQ. It's not even an EQ. It's going to be like like the one knob plugins. Just
Yeah.
stop it. Stop that
Oh
noise.
my god. Fuck, that's so funny. Oh Jesus Christ, I
And
haven't laughed like that.
as engineers, it's a problem because some of that type of shit causes, you know, something that you could have just gone back and redid that verse
Yeah.
could save someone 45 minutes, an hour of EQing and multiband compressing. And, I know you do a lot of live instruments, a lot of gating you could probably eliminate from
Yeah.
doing some of these things. Like, so they don't want to do that ahead of time. They want to give
Mm.
you all this. They want to give you all that extra work, and then they don't want to pay any more money for it. It's, don't you have a plugin for that? Like, oh, my boy said that I could, like, so take this to your boy, have him take out the washing machine for you, and put that shit on the radio, and it's gonna be great. And why do you need me?
Fuck, that's hilarious, dude.
There's
Jesus,
a
that is the funniest thing I've ever
there's
heard
a
in my
program
life.
right now where you can take a song, a 2-track song, and put it through an algorithm and pay $20, and your song gets put out as a mix, fully
Oh,
mixed record.
like you put the stems up?
Not even the stems, bro. You take your 2-track of like your recording,
Mm-hmm.
you upload that to a computer, like a website,
Hmm.
and it spits it through some mixing algorithm for like $20, $10,
Oh wow.
and it
Is
spits out
this
a fully mixed song for you.
this isn't Lander, is it?
I don't know. I've never used it. I only know of someone that uses it a
Lander
bunch,
is like the online mastering thing, which is like you upload your mix and then for $50 it runs it through an algorithm and
which is probably another
spits out.
thing. So you're telling me for $75, which, you know, why would someone pay 400 for to get a record
Right.
mixed if that's what they're
Right.
doing? Unless
Yeah,
they
yeah.
know, and honestly, if you can get people to hear the difference,
Yeah.
then they typically understand
Right.
the difference. They
Fuck,
don't
dude.
know it until they know it. So if you get someone that has like shitty records their whole career and you do that one record for them that they spent some extra money on, they should be able to hear the
Yeah.
difference.
Dude,
Um,
I wonder, like, it's probably coming, right? It's probably all going to be automated eventually.
I'm gonna say no,
I hope
because
not, dude. I hope you're right, man. I don't
I'd say
know.
soon it's gonna be like a robot in my chair doing this, but
Mm,
it's not even necessary. They'll just be a robot that just does it.
damn. Yeah, I mean, I worry with like, not worry, but it's just the natural progression of
I
the
worry.
world. Yeah, I know.
I
But
definitely
like,
worry.
yeah, I mean, I would worry in the sense like, fuck, how am I gonna make money? But like,
Yeah,
I guess like I should also be like, well, I should have seen this coming. Like, if they can write programs that mix your record and people are, like, it's kind of like you said, if that's what's kind of standard on the radio now, like, why would people put in the effort to pay 400 or 500 or whatever it is,
yeah.
So, oh shit.
The problem is it still sucks compared. You know what I mean? So the work quality's still shitty. Um, it's not
but
there yet,
but I
but
mean,
when it does get
yeah,
there, it's gonna be really hard to,
it probably will. At some point, it's
yeah,
got to. Dude, we have plugins that emulate the SSL. It's gonna happen.
yeah.
I'm
No,
a little worried now that I'm talking without talking
it's like,
about.
how are we gonna shift? Right now it's good because all this gear still needs a trained person to
Mm-hmm.
use it and understand it. But I got pissed off the other day because I saw these engineers on Instagram who made this plugin
Mm-hmm.
where you literally just put your vocal through it and spits out is like, do you want your to sound like Travis Scott? Do you want to sound like Post Malone? Do you want to sound like this? They're all presets. So you go in there, you take your WAV file, you put it in this plugin and hit Travis Scott.
Oh
And
wow.
out comes a fully chained version of that song with all the compression, EQ, whatever's in the preset to sound like Travis Scott. The auto tune, all the effects, all the delays and reverbs, all that shit.
Wow.
And these are engineers that were making it. So it pissed me
Mm.
off.
But I guess like
But
that would mean that you're just repeating something that's already been done. Like I guess like innovation would be it'd be
well,
hard to
again, it's you don't have to give it to the mixer to be like, oh, I want to sound like Travis Scott. Be
mm,
like, oh, I have it running through this plugin, bro. Like,
it's
I don't,
taken away. It's
yeah,
taken away.
just balance it, and you're not going to be able to charge $500 a record to balance levels.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, fuck. Yeah, you're totally right.
It'll be a while
It
before.
will. Hopefully.
I don't think they like we're going obsolete.
Yeah, I
But the
hope not.
direction overall is
Yeah.
is getting a little bit more self-sustaining, but it still requires like a trained ear. It still requires
Hmm.
someone like us to run these programs, run this gear. Yeah, you can use Pro Tools on your computer, but like, do you know how to use Pro Tools? You
Hmm.
know what I mean? And effectively and efficiently. Um,
I
you
can't
know,
stop thinking about your iPhone thing. That shit's so funny.
it's gonna happen.
That shit's so funny.
You acting like
Dude, the
you
microphone you're talking into right now sounds great, and it's a
It's
laptop.
incredible. I almost set up like a full mic array in here so that I could be able to get like a nice quality. But I'm like, no, they put in this mic in my laptop. My laptop's all the way over there, and it sounds incredible. And I'm sitting in front of all
Fuck.
this fucking gear. And I was like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
route all this shit. I'm gonna like route it virtual channels. I'm gonna get all. I'm like, why?
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
never heard it. And I did the test with you, and I was like, this shit sounds incredible.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Boom.
Oh my god. I just saw Danny comment in the in the chat. He just said "Jit." I
I don't
got
even I don't even know what this means.
no, he always says it. Whenever he saw me like at engineering, he'd always just say "Jit" in like
Yeah.
this Indian accent. I just thought it was always hilarious. I'm
Okay.
sorry, Danny. I just saw that. But yeah, like wait, so you and him were close, like at the end
Yeah,
of
I mean, we became friends through Engine Room. Kind
yeah.
of me, Danny, and Joey, and y'all, Lee, Rohan, kind of everybody. Jeff, I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
Jeff's in here, but he was around as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and we just kind of became cool, I guess.
And talked
Uh,
about this idea of like starting.
this wasn't a thing for like the first couple years, but it was at that point for me when I had um, came back from that one tour and was just like, fuck, man, I want to do something a little bit different. I've been at Engine for like a while, um, and had some experience at that point and kind of saw how studios operate, you know, how to operate, how sessions work, all that shit, what's needed. Really got the experience to like kind of understand like what's needed. And yeah, I think we just kind of got up and passed ideas back and forth and seeing if this was something that like he would be interested in doing. And um but like we took a lot of time with it. It wasn't something we decided over the weekend and like
Right.
just did it. um we spent about a year
Mm-hmm.
um planning this out, uh talking about it almost daily. We'd get on the phone and discuss for an hour. We'd have a list of all the reasons why and what are the, the hurdles and everything. And you get to the point of the list, it's like, all right, we'll go back to this tomorrow. Like, we got to figure some shit out.
Yeah.
You come back tomorrow and you talk, and then you are able to cross some things off the list. And after about a year of like a full 12 months of doing that almost daily, we kind of got to the bottom of this list. And the only thing left was to like find a space.
Wow.
So we had kind of figured everything we need to figure out throughout the year of like daily grinding, daily back and forth, like pricing out gear. What kind of gear do we need? Like, what type of room do we want? Like, what is it going to look like? How much money do we need? You know, how much time do we need? Are we able to do it ourselves? Are, all these things. And it ended up being just find a space at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So then we started looking at spaces. And we got lucky. We only looked at probably like four, five,
Nice.
maybe, and just went with like that last fifth one, which is this
Mm-hmm.
one. And then just went to work. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, we got in like August, and it was, four concrete floor, four walls and a concrete floor. Nothing was in here. No booth, no anything, no panels. It wasn't like a pre-made studio, and then just started building. Um, yeah,
What was
and
it like? Did you first get a desk? Is that the first thing?
no, honestly, desk was like close to last.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we built the booth ultimately first.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and it's not a kit or anything. It's all like custom design. Like, go to Home Depot, buy the wood, and like get to building.
Wow.
So we planned out everything, planned it out to the specs that we felt that we needed.
Well, here's the thing. This is the thing. You guys built that studio on your own, and it sounds so good. Like so fucking
I heard
good.
you saying that with Danny after
Ah,
last time. I
I'm
really,
like so proud of you guys. It sounds dope.
I am too, and I feel like it could have not sounded good.
Mm.
We aren't acousticians, and like there's no gimmicks here. We did not hire an acoustician. Like, you know, we barely shot pink noise in the room in the sweet spot. Like, we almost like broke all the rules at that aspect.
Mhm.
Um, when it comes to that, you know, we built the booth. We got that situated. Did all the floors, and then we built these panels. And we brought them in like a U-Haul all in, and like brought them all up here. Got a desk enough to like get some speakers up to play like out of an aux. And we just started playing music. We had the same like, 10, 15 songs that we were playing. And we put up a panel and we play a song, and then we listen, and then we put up another panel and we play the same song, and like we'd listen to it. And we pretty much did that with every panel, every cloud that we put up. the diffusers in the back. We played the same songs over and over and over again, but got to hear how every panel changed the room.
Mhm.
Um, and that's kind of how we, that's kind of
Wow.
like how we did our acoustics in that sense. And um,
Tedious.
yeah, tedious, but I'll be honest, like, aesthetic wise, these panels are, most of them probably going to go up anyways.
Mhm. Mhm.
But, if it sounded really shitty, we'd maybe take that panel down and build a single layer panel instead of like a double thick layer. Or this panel above us, all these panels are double thick, double tall.
Mhm.
But this one above the diffusers is a
Yeah.
single layer, single tall,
Right.
because that sounded a little bit better.
Mhm.
So we can move some stuff around, but um, I think with that and just kind of everything, we try to isolate as much as possible, and it sounded good. We were both equally surprised. Like, we knew it was going to sound good. We just didn't know like how good. We've all built studios in like our houses, our basements, or living rooms, but never
Yeah.
like a proper. And I know there's a lot that can go into acoustics. So I'll say we got a little lucky, because we
Oh
definitely did
God.
not. Any other huge, massive, engine room or something like that, they've hired acousticians. They've shot the room out with pink noise. They've built panels accordingly. All the diffusers are built to spec for the room.
Mhm.
We got away without doing that, but
Mm.
it sounds good.
Mhm.
I don't encourage everyone to just do whatever and
Yeah.
expect to get
Yeah.
a good sounding room. You just have to be mindful of
Yeah, dude. It sounds so
what you're
good.
doing.
I remember. I think. Yeah. I talked about this on Danny's episode, but like, yeah, when I first heard something out of those speakers, I was like, "What the fuck? This sounds fucking amazing!
Yeah,
What the
no,
fuck is going on?"
and I think he mentioned this too. We got all the panels up, and then we'd shoot it out, play music, and we'd be like, all right, we need another little panel like at the bottom of this back wall. So then we go
Mm.
back, we build a panel specifically for the bottom of the back wall where the sub is. The panels went pretty much down to the sub, and there was just bare wall behind it. So we're learning that the sub wasn't tight enough. So we got those ISO stands for all the speakers and the sub, and then put another panel back, and then it's like, all right, this sounds a lot tighter, a lot better. And that's kind of how we ended up doing um, most of the acoustics in here.
That sounds
Um,
awesome.
yeah, and then just buying gear and
What's the latest purchase? The summing box?
yeah, we swapped our Apollos out, so we were running
Oh,
the
right.
the Apollo 8P, but um, we just realized that some of the input output set of the X8, the newer Apollo X8, was more appropriate.
Mm.
We ended up just not using 8 mics in here ever.
Mm.
Um, and the way those combo jacks work, you can either come out of it mic or come out of it line.
Mm.
So if you have a mic hooked up, like we had all mic inputs hooked up to the patch bay.
Mm.
So it was impossible to put line signals
Oh, I see.
through the Apollo because they were running XLR out. So we'd have to go in the back and switch things out. But now that we got summing and we're running external pre's now, like we needed some line inputs
Mhm.
specifically. So the X8 has 4 mic pre's
Mhm.
and then 8 proper line inputs
Line-ins?
and 8
Oh.
proper line outs. And they're not combo jacks. They're like
Yeah.
4 XLRs and then 8 TRS connectors,
Yeah.
and then 8 proper line outs. The Apollo 8P only had 6 outputs plus
Mhm.
monitor left right,
Right.
which you could bypass that gain stage and like make it a line out.
Uh-huh.
But this one has 8 proper, because we have summing now. So we have 8 channels of summing.
Nice.
So it's nice to have 8 proper outputs of Apollo.
Yeah.
And we have that running into the Dangerous D-Box Plus,
Nice.
which is like a amazing monitor station as well as 8 channels of summing. So it's our
Dude.
speaker select, our monitor select, our source select, and 8 channels of summing, all in a single rack
Wow.
gear with talkback, 2 headphone amps. Um, it's pretty amazing. I kind of
Dude.
encourage anyone to get that.
You've used it, like, you like it a lot.
Yeah, we got that in January. Um,
Nice.
so we've been using that a bunch. The converters on the Dangerous are incredible. So it goes out of the Apollo, which has great converters anyways, then gets converted again with the Dangerous converters. That's why I was telling you, you should come to this room again.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's way different, I think, from when you.
Oh,
I don't even think
definitely.
we had
I
like the ISO stands for the speakers yet.
well, that's a good question. I think when I came, you were just switching out the like near the sub, the panel. You said you were going to add a panel. I think that was the time I
Yeah,
came.
yeah. So we had those like foam
Mm-hmm.
speaker stands, just like
Oh
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
which are cool, but these are a little bit better. These are like those proper ISO stands where everything's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like on suspension. Um, Between those and the new panel and the dangerous, um, it sounds even tighter in here.
Oh fuck, dude.
Pretty,
Yeah, I'll
it's pretty
definitely come
crazy.
by. I'll definitely come
Yeah,
by.
you got to check that out.
How? Oh, Heiko's here. That's so fucking cool. How'd you design that studio? Mind if I take some pictures? I might want to just. I might want. I want mine to look like yours. But Heiko works for you guys. What the fuck is he just
It's
trolling?
probably being politically correct. I hope he's not though. Now we're finding out he's
he's
stealing
a
fucking trade secrets.
he's a secret
He
operative.
forgot to change his fucking name on the thing. It's not supposed to be Heiko. Um, yeah, no, we we just we got in here and it was a blank room. So we kind of
Mm,
just sat here and figured out how to like maximize this space and what we needed. I mean, it's like 200 square feet. It's not like an A room at all.
yeah.
Um, but plenty of room to have like the desk, to have the couch, seating area, the booth. Um, and with that, with the four square walls, you can only have the booth here or the booth here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm,
There's
mm-hmm.
only really two places that you can do that. So
Yeah.
um, we just figured out like the best flow and then just kind of built it from there. Built the booth out first, got it in its place, and then just started constructing everything else.
I just love the whole rock and roll aspect of it. It's like you just like fuck it, like we'll do it ourselves. Just figure out what sounds best,
It's
and it worked.
You save the most money. We probably
Yeah,
saved a
yeah,
whole lot of money doing. I mean, we
for
didn't
sure.
hire like there's no one that got hired to do any of this work, and it's not to
Yeah,
like hype us up. It's just to say that
it's
like
the truth.
it took us extra time, and like we built all the panels ourselves. We sourced all the material ourselves. Uh, we figured out how to frame walls and like built the booth proper to spec. Like the booth isn't built with like some plywood. Like it's built like you would build a garage or a house. Like it's built
Yeah, yeah.
proper. You know, and with that comes a lot of bullshit. Me and
Mm,
Danny have probably been to every home goods store in the tri-state area. The 5 boroughs at a minimum. There isn't
yeah,
a
yeah.
Home Depot that I have not been to in all of the 5 boroughs. I promise you, we have been to every single one of them. Um, and it takes time. You build shit, you learn it doesn't work, and it takes time. And um, so along the way, you figure out shit that doesn't work, you do stuff wrong, and then you kind of just end up doing shit a little bit
It's
more right.
dude. Look, I think you guys did it the right way. I mean, I can't say enough good things about this place. So hopefully,
Well, luckily
yeah.
between the two of us, we had the skill set to be able to do that. I know a lot of people don't know how to work a drill, so like
Mm,
you can't build your own place at that sense. But
that's
the
fair.
nice thing is, if you can, is that there's no guesswork later down the road when things don't
Mm,
work, when things break. You know everything inside and out.
yeah,
You put
yeah.
every screw in here, every wall that got painted, every cable that's gotten made, everything that's gotten wired. You know every bit of it. So it's not like you as an engineer at in the mez at engine room having to learn like I don't know where this cable goes or I don't know who made it. So troubleshooting is a lot smoother in your
Mm-hmm.
own place, because you know exactly how things are run. You know exactly
Right.
how things are built. So if things aren't working, you instantly know like it can only be these three things.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that because I did it. So you
Yeah,
can kind of
that's
navigate
awesome.
that way.
That's awesome. So
Yeah,
what's next? Like what happens now?
yeah, I don't know. I think we're just gonna, in terms of my own personal stuff, I'm just looking to continue to grow as an engineer. Um, I'm finding out that like I'm perfectly happy with not like just sitting in the studio 40 hours a week. I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy doing other things within the field. Um, I work with this other podcast that I travel around with, and we kind of go to particular spots in the country to
Nice.
um, shoot stuff on scene. And Um, and at this point too, you know, we're kind of playing a lot of roles where the studio owners, we're the managers, we're, you know, we're doing the accounting, we're having to deal with like scheduling from time to time, and if not training people on how to do those things. Um, and I can't just not worry about the studio. You know, if it's
Yeah.
broken, it's on us. You know, like I was saying earlier, there's no one else to take care of the shit but us. So um, that obviously takes up some time as well to like kind of run operations and try to like fix gear, you know, whatever. There's always something that you can fix. There's always something to break. For me, it's just about finding that best combination of all that. And I'm happiest when I get to kind of dabble in a few things. I don't
Yeah.
have to be like in the basement until I get a Grammy and I'm not satisfied.
Hmm.
A lot of people are, and that's their journey. You know what I mean? That's like what they're doing it for. And so there's that particular mindset. And for me, it's just about like trying to be successful in this. But I think you learn quick as an engineer that like you have to do some other shit within music and within the
Sure.
field. What you're doing, you know, you're a freelance guy. Like to come out of school and thinking you're going to get like the main house engineer job at a big studio, like it's probably not going to happen. I don't want to tell
Yeah.
people to not shoot for that, but it's probably
Yeah.
not going to happen. I never saw that at Engine Room
Right. Right.
ever.
Yeah.
Benoit was like as close to that as I've ever seen.
Hmm.
Um, so figuring out what you like to do, obviously in the beginning, you should kind of focus in to get yourself, if you've learned anything from my mistakes, just tell people you want to be a fucking mixing engineer and you want to learn the process and you want to be an intern and you can't wait to clean toilets. And like, that'll get you in the building. You want to just get into the building. Once you're in there, you're allowed to experiment. You're allowed to dabble as long as you don't forget your place.
Yeah.
Um, you know, we were still taught to walk in the hallways and keep your head down and look the other way and don't put your head up until someone says something to you. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Um, so I'm still kind of with that mindset. You know, people should still go in, they should still learn the process. I know people need money, I get all that. But if you're talking about a lifelong career of what you want to do, spending a year and putting in that foundation, that groundwork is nothing.
Priceless. Yeah.
It's
For
it's just
sure.
a year. And a year goes fast. The older you get, the more things go in year terms. It's not like,
Mm.
oh, in 2 months my life is going to be different. It's like for me, my life's not going to be different until next year at a minimum. You know,
Yeah.
like you have to, and that goes quick. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like forever. 6 months as an intern will go fast. And then you don't have to ever, that's the best part. Once you stop being an intern, you never have to do it ever again. You
Right.
never have to do it again. You get a job at another studio. If they're like, you're going to be an intern, like, no, fuck that. I already did that. You know, you never have to clean toilets again. You never have to make coffee for people again. You don't have to be a runner ever again. So 6 months and then never doing it again. And you get to say that you did it and like put in that time. That's priceless, man. I think
Yeah.
that's super important. And anyone that's not willing to do that, I'm telling y'all right now, like every engineer, every studio employee will recognize it and you won't get hired. You won't get called. Even if you don't want to, you fucking you fake it. You put a smile on and you say, literally, one of my favorite activities when I wake up before I go to bed is to scrub toilets. I cannot think of anything that brings me more joy than to like flush someone else's shit. I know it's crazy, but like someone's gonna be like, oh, sweet. I know he's boring, but I know he's down. As opposed to like, yeah, I'm not really about that cleaning shit, but like I'm
Oh
expected to
my god.
sit
Yeah. Don't say that.
I'm expected to sit in on every session and I'm expected to like be able to pass my mixtape to some of these art, like all that shit, bro. Like that part of the culture has not left yet.
Yeah.
And as much as it's more in the box and more accessible, like you're gonna stay at your house because you will
Mm.
not get a job. You will not get put into a studio if you're not willing to put in that groundwork. And I think that's still the same with like a lot of arts, you know, film, photography. Like these are industries that like you still have to kind of put in the grunt work.
Sure.
When you work at a mechanic shop, like mechanics that come in, like they're cleaning the shop, they're cleaning the tools every night. Like you have to prove yourself. It's not like becoming a lawyer and then like you can like start to fight a case. Like you have to like you got to go through all this and then put in, it's two separate things. Going to school is one thing. Getting a job at a studio is like a whole nother
Yeah. The
thing.
experience totally can. I mean, that's why like a lot of these jobs will ask for like what, like 5, 6 years experience because they don't want to. Yeah, they
Yeah.
probably don't want somebody who just knows how to hit record, right? So
Yeah. And again, like that's, if you went to school and you learn, like it's, people know that you can learn that, but it's a lot harder to learn personality and learn the skill set of being around people and being a cool guy. Like
yeah,
nobody wants to be around an asshole. Nobody wants to include you in that circle. You
dude.
know,
I
it's
out of all the resumes I used to, first of all, out of all the resumes I got at Andrew when I was managing it, dude, I didn't read those. I mean, okay, it's okay now, right? Because I'm not there. But like, dude, I would call everybody in for an interview and just see what their personalities were.
yeah,
That's it.
because we all know what we do on our resumes. Resumes aren't fucking new. And when I see people like their experience and they put all these different consoles on there, it's like I did the same shit when I left SAE, I was a Neve Pro all day. I can do 90 channels of Neve all day long, in and out, all day. Like, no, you can't. You know what I mean?
Right.
That Yamaha 1604, Mackie 1604, you use that shit once for the project and you never touch that again. You're not an expert at the Mackie 1604. I don't care if you got an A in the class. You know, it doesn't mean shit. And so I see all that, and you know, even here, like we've received resumes for guys that want
Yeah,
to
yeah,
engineer and stuff. And it's like, all right, we just need to get them in here, and we do the same thing. We get them in here, we have them open up a session that they've recorded, and
yeah,
like show it to us.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we want to see it because your Neve experience here is not gonna do anything for us
That's
here.
so funny. I just realized I think I still have some shit on my resume, like consoles that I've used like once.
Yeah,
Again, just like, come on.
this shit does not work.
Such bullshit.
I
Uh,
so um yeah, that's kind of it for me. I'm just gonna keep pushing along here and just keep trying to grow this. We hired some new staff. We got, you know, Heiko, a studio manager
fuck yeah.
here. We've gotten some other guys to start running some tracking sessions. So just trying to legitimize things a little bit and try to get some more traffic and things moving.
Yeah, dude.
Kind of like my main goal.
I'll definitely make it back there one time. I
Yeah,
actually
please.
have an idea to come back and make something over there, but I have to track it first. So
Cool.
I'll definitely hit you up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
I want to run to the bathroom, but I don't want
No,
to
no,
cut
we're
this
done.
off.
No, we're done,
Okay.
bro. Like, I appreciate you taking some time. I'm sure there'll be a lot of lessons in this for sure.
Yeah, no,
I
I
will
hope so.
never forget that iPhone thing for
Yeah.
the rest of my life.
You won't need to forget it because you'll get those
Yeah,
files.
it's gonna
It's
happen. I
coming,
mean,
bro. Yeah. Trust me, I promise you. Just
yeah,
take it out in
yeah.
the mix.
No, look, I appreciate you, man, and like,
Yeah. Thanks
it
for hitting
was
me up, man. This
it
was
was
a good
really
good
nice
talk.
to have you here.
It's yeah, I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
All right, dude, and
All right,
I will guess I'll just cut off the stream. So
yeah,
peace,
we'll talk soon,
everybody.
bro. Later, guys.
Yeah, so that's it. That was
If you want to, do
easy,
you want to
painless.
pause for 1 second? I want to come back and talk to you for a second. I just
Go
got to
for
run to the bathroom. I'll be
it. Go
real
for
quick. Sorry.
it.
It's been like 2 hours.
Yeah.